Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of Zoo School. Unfortunately, we're not doing it live today. We had some technical difficulties yesterday, so we're going to be pre-recording this and then posting it on our Facebook and YouTube. But thanks for tuning in. As always, we always appreciate your support here at Zoo School Live and your support for the zoo. Today we're going to be learning about microhabitats and what that is and what that means and where you can find them. And then at the very end, we're going to be meeting one of our residents here at the zoo. He's actually one of our exhibit animals, so we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between them and some of the animals that you've seen here on Zoo School Live. So first and foremost, what is a microhabitat? So when you think micro and habitat, you might be thinking small, right? When we think about micro, we're thinking about microscopes, things you might need to look at under a microscope, very small things. And a habitat is a place where is a type of ecosystem or type of environment that hosts a wide variety of different animals and plants that live there. So I don't know about you guys, but when I think about habitats, I always think about deserts and rainforests, but believe it or not, there's a bunch of smaller habitats around within those larger habitat regions. So for example, here in Pennsylvania, where Elmwood Park Zoo is located, we have a pretty, two really distinctive, or I should say three very distinctive types of habitats. We have farmland here in this area, we have forested woodland areas, and then we also have urban areas, right, where there's lots of cities or towns. So those are kind of the three main habitats that we have in this area here in Pennsylvania. And there are, of course, other habitats as well, river habitats and creek habitats. But today we're going to be looking at under a rock habitats. So within the zoo here, we have a bunch of mini habitats, and a few of those go under the ground. So we're going to take a look to see if we can find anybody under our rocks today. So whenever we're looking for microhabitats, you're never really quite sure what you're going to find, right? It's not like some of what we would call megafauna, right? They're not large animals that you'd be able to easily see coming. Something like a deer is easy to spot. But under a rock, you're never quite sure what you're going to find. And sometimes that might mean some creepy crawlies. So to make sure that you stay comfortable and that you don't accidentally smush any of our friends under the rock, you always kind of want to pull, and this could be under a rock or under a log, and you always want to pull it up kind of towards you so that if there's anything a little spooky under here, that they might be able to scuttle away from you instead of towards you. Now it looks like even though we gently lifted this log, it doesn't look like we have any living friends on here right now. Now we might do a little bit of digging to just kind of move some of this mulch aside. There's a lot of different little organisms that will live under the mulch. So although I don't see anybody right now, it looks like we have an ant or two crawling around. It does look like we have a little burrow here. So that's an indicator that there's definitely something living in here, right? We're just not quite sure. Now it's also really important that we leave no trace behind, right? We don't want to disturb our habitats, right? Even if we're exploring and looking, we want to make sure that we are kind to the environment and that we kind of put these habitats back where we found them. So I'm going to move some of this mulch back where I found it, and I'm going to gently place this rock down, making sure I don't smush my fingers. And then we'll go see if we can find anything else under, let's say, this rock. All right. Well, gee, there's nobody under here either. It's a pretty quiet morning. But what you can see is if you look close here, you might be able to see some of this white colored here. It's a little discolored there. And that is actually a type of fungus, it looks like. And so some of this mulch under this rock has started decomposing, which is very important. So decomposers can be fungi or small animals that are going to be that are going to help to eat some of this organic material or living material, right? So that's like things like grass and plants and wood chips and trees and leaves. Those are all considered organic material because they're either living or they were a part of something that was living. Now, our decomposers play a very important role in the environment, because not only do they help to eat some of this organic material, but when they are eating this material, it actually puts nutrients back into the ground. So when you guys think about nutrients, you might think about, right, that we like to eat healthy foods to help make sure that we are grow big and strong. So just the same kind of way for plants and animals to grow as well, they need nutrients in the soil, which helps the plants grow, which helps the animals that eat those plants grow as well. So we do have, it looks like we have a little bit of a creepy crawly here. It looks like some kind of small worm or centipede. So this guy would be considered a decomposer as well. So what they're going to do is they're going to eat some of this organic material, and then when they excrete that waste, when they get rid of the waste, it's going to add those nutrients to the soil to help the soil grow. So decomposers are a really important part of habitats and a part of our environment as a whole. They help to really clean up the forest and make sure that everything stays nice and healthy. All right, so we'll put this guy back down here. We'll kind of put the mulch back where we found it, and we're gonna roll this rock back. All right. Now, it doesn't always have to be under a rock or under a log. Sometimes microhabitats can be in your neighborhood, in between sidewalk cracks, or maybe even along a rock wall. So we're gonna see here if we can find anything amongst this rock wall here. Nothing under this rock. See if we can find something else. Let's see over here. So a lot of decomposers really enjoy dark, humid places, and that's going to help them grow and help some of the food that they like to eat. There we go. We found a little friend here. All right, so these are one of my absolute favorites. This here is what I always called a roly-poly growing up, but some people might know them as pill bugs. So this guy here, although he kind of has the appearance of an insect or a beetle, these guys are incredibly interesting because they are in fact terrestrial crustaceans. So when you think about crustaceans, you should be thinking of things like crabs or lobsters, right? Those are all crustaceans. So they have a hard exoskeleton armor-like body here. But these guys, these roly-polies or pill bugs, are considered to be terrestrial crustaceans. They have that hard outer shell and they have 7 sets of legs. Now these guys, terrestrial, just means that they lived entirely on the land. So there are aquatic or semi-aquatic crustaceans that will live in the water or the ocean. But our friend the roly-polies, they'll live entirely on the ground, and they are considered decomposers as well. They're going to help those microhabitats grow and thrive, and help them help keep those habitats nice and healthy. So it looks like this guy's speeding around here, which is pretty cool. Now, pill bugs are also very interesting because they actually carry their eggs in a pouch. And like other animals, but mostly you might be thinking of things like koalas or kangaroos, which are considered to be marsupials. And even though our friend here is definitely not a mammal, he has similar qualities to that, in that the females will actually carry their eggs in a little pouch, just like a kangaroo, which is pretty cool. So you never know what kinds of exciting things you'll find in your backyard or your neighborhood. And remember, pill bugs and other, roly-polioles and other decomposers can be found just about anywhere. They can be found in your backyard, they can be found under rocks, they can be found on the sidewalk, they can be found in even those urban areas, right? The cities and towns. So there is wildlife just about everywhere you look. So we'll put this friend back down in our garden here. And another really cool thing that's happening in our garden right now is we do have some fungus here. So if you take a look real close, these guys might be a little hard to spot, but we have here some different kinds of fungus. And we'll have to send a link below this video to let you know exactly what species these are. But they look like little birds' nests. So that's how you can tell these type of fungus apart. So keep an eye out on our comments. We're going to link some of this below. Another great resource for you guys to utilize if you are doing some backyard exploring or microhabitat exploring is that there's an app called iNaturalist, and we'll link this below in the comments also, but iNaturalist is a great resource to help you figure out what kinds of wildlife and plants and animals and insects and terrestrial crustaceans are in your backyard and your neighborhoods. And so this app allows you to take a photo and helps you categorize what you're seeing in that microhabitat, which is very cool. So it's something that we'll definitely post down to, but before we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and take out one of our friends here that really enjoys microhabitats, and he really thrives by eating a lot of those decomposers. So here we have George, and George is a box turtle. Now George, the box turtle, he's actually one of our exhibit animals here at the Elmwood Park Zoo, which means that he is able to be seen by the public. So if you come visit the zoo, you might see him. He's actually located in our wildlife lodge, and I'm actually going to let him go and do a little bit of exploring here. So we'll go ahead and let him do some cruising, and we'll see if he can find some of those microorganisms or some of those smaller decomposers. Our friend George here is really a huge fan of earthworms, so we'll see if he can find any of those around. It looks like he's cruising, wanting to go climb and go exploring. There you go, George. Now, George is quite the adventurer. Being a box turtle, these guys will spend a majority of their life moving around. And they're gonna live in forested environments where there is just an enormous amount of places for them to crawl and hide and adventure. So George here is gonna spend a lot of his life cruising around, looking for food and looking for places to hide too. Unfortunately, box turtles absolutely do have some natural predators, things like foxes and raccoons, even hawks. So they're gonna cruise around and look for places to get out of the open. They're also gonna look for places to go and do a lot of, to eat. These guys are omnivores. They're gonna be eating a lot of plant material. They're also gonna be eating a lot of insects, and just like we were talking about before, lots of decomposers. So these guys are very important parts of their habitats. Being a predator, they're really going to spend a lot of their time looking for food to eat as well. Well, thanks so much today, guys, for joining us for Zoo School today. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. So sorry about those technical difficulties that we had earlier this week, but we definitely appreciate it, and we hope you guys will tune in next Tuesday for another episode of Zoo School. Thanks so much.